Hi everyone. I'm really excited to be here with you today. I'm Proto. I'm CEO of Virtual Reality Marketing, and I want to take a minute to welcome all of you to who are joining us here on the pool deck. Happy New Year! Also, it's the first time we're doing this year, so it's a great start of the year. It's good to see very many familiar avatars, and I want to say hi to all of those who are watching us online too. And before we start, and as usual, a few words about us. For those of us who don't know us, we've been on a mission for the past few years to connect enterprises with leading AR, VR, and metaverse creators. And today, virtualrealitymarketing.com, our website, is the largest showcase of immersive companies. We've got more than 3,300 creators listed on the site. We've got more than 700 case studies across all verticals. And with our group on LinkedIn, Reality Innovators Network, we are super proud to be the largest XR community online. We've got more than 70,000 members. And our goal here is really to be a guide to the business metaverse. As you know, there's a lot of talk, and still to this day, there's a lot of questions, and people tend to be confused. And our mission is really to inspire, educate, and facilitate immersive business. And by the way, I always like to say that if you need help finding the right metaverse partner, or if you have a story you want to share with our audience, we're here. So you can get in touch with us. You have direct links by the last bar at the end to my LinkedIn or Sophia's LinkedIn over there. And feel free to get in touch. We always like, to talk to people. And before we go further, I want to thank Michelle and Marcy, our team, our Red Cowboy hats, and for making sure that everything is running smoothly for us today. Carlos, our videographer, is the little drone in front of me, who's always taking great care of us, and the team of M2 Studio, who are hosting us in this beautiful space. And this month, we are partnered with an exciting company. I think Nabil is here in the audience. Iconic Engine has developed an entire stack to launch businesses into the metaverse. It's a really cool solution. They've deployed their solution with really cool clients such as Red Bull or T-Mobile or Intel. And we're going to organize a discovery session of the platform very soon, so that you guys can see what's possible with it, and that's going to be a one-off. So stay tuned in the community. We're going to be posting about that soon. But in the meantime, we thought we'd start with a nice video of their work. So Michelle. Stay tuned. We're going to be organizing a session in Vasu to give you an opportunity to see other platforms and Altspace. It's going to be fun. It's coming up. We're going to be making an announcement in the community. And today, well, it's the start of a new year, and it's always a great time to take a minute and to look back and think that last year has been an incredibly eventful year in our world, but to be fair, you could say that of all years. And so today we figured we could shake the formula a little bit. And instead of having a guest speaker, it's just us. And we're going to discuss the highlights of 2022 in our XR and metaverse world. And the good, the bad, and the unexpected. And we love the community, and we feel we very much value your interaction. So we'd love your hair or your voice too. So what we'll do is we'll start the discussion on the main stage, and we're looking forward to hearing your thoughts in the Q&A as well. And it's also an opportunity to welcome my partner, Deborah, on stage for the first time. She's been at each and every one of those events, and I'm sure a lot of you don't know her avatar. And there's a reason there's a reason for that. It's because she loves to stay hidden on the sidelines. And I'm really happy to have her join us on stage today. She's one of the smartest person in the industry. So please give her a warm welcome.
Thank you, Terry. That was a pretty fabulous introduction. So I'm a partner in virtual reality marketing and the chief strategist. I come from many years of digital marketing, advertising, and marketing background. So I love looking back at the trends, both what worked, what didn't work, and forward looking into what's coming next.
Cool.
Thank you.
And Sophia, as usual, I think I'll let you, take it from there and start the discussion.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Sophia here. Hi, Happy New Year. Just like Terry said, it's going to be a little bit different in that we're not going to do questions at the end, but we very much want you guys to be a part of this discussion because it's literally just us talking about 2023, how that went, some of the cool things that happened, some of the unexpected things that happened, maybe talk about a little bit of projections, coming into the next year and beyond, and what our thoughts were on that. But we will remain with the same process of having everybody press the raise hand option. You should see that on like the bottom right of your screen probably, and then we'll just call on you throughout the discussion here. Okay. So I just wanted to start with basically like what were like the highlights of 2023. I'd love to hear top two from you, Terry and Deb, and then anybody else in the audience. Like what were like the things that really helped evolve this industry from any perspective. It could be XR related, it could be emerging technologies that kind of integrated into XR and the metaverse, anything that is kind of significant to the evolution of this technology in this industry. Terry, go ahead.
Right, okay, so I'll start with hardware because, it's the XR industry and there's always cool hardware coming. And, this week was CES and we saw all of the venue. I was really impressed with like the flow of AR glasses. That's technically 2023, so I'm not going to talk about that. But last year we had the Pico 4 and the Quest Pro, and I'm going to talk about them in a minute. But the hardware thing, that was the big thing of last year for me, was actually desktops. It was PCs and Macs and tablets. Like what happened last year, and that's funny and unexpected, and that's great, I think, was that before we were in a conversation that was centered around headsets, mostly for VR and a lot for AR as well, a little less for AR. And what's changed with the metaverse is that conversation has move from the hardware to the 3D worlds, and the 3D worlds that can be accessed through any device. And it's kind of like, it's kind of like the internet. You can browse the internet on your phone or on your tablet. And I think it makes a big difference because all of a sudden you go from tiny markets of like tens of millions, like I believe that the number for Quest is still around 20 million devices, to billions of devices, and all of a sudden it's not so much about what headset you're using, but you can connect to a 3D world and everyone's invited. So I would say my highlight of the year is the is the least exciting hardware. It's the hardware that everybody has, and it's fantastic that now in the discussion, well, everyone is invited and everyone can bring their own hardware, and that's fine. It wasn't the case before.
Well, how have let's talk about that for a second. How have the advancements in hardware and maybe improvements of sensors and cameras and smartphones and other devices influenced and improved the accessibility to the metaverse for users? Because it's not that we had phones for a long time and PCs for a while. And yes, a lot of this stuff is definitely accessible, but I think that it's definitely top of mind for the hardware device manufacturers to make these devices more accessible to immersive experiences, right?
And so I would say several things. Number one, over the past decade, everything, like every device has like very solid 3D acceleration. Like every phone is as powerful as a PlayStation 3 or 4. Every entry level laptop, if you have a MacBook Air, it's also super. And we kind of take that for granted now. And it was not the case only a few years before, meaning that all of those 3D experiences, that are the core of the metaverse, you just couldn't do on most of the hardware that people had even 6 years ago. And then if you move to headsets and more specific things, there's also been really interesting developments. I think on one hand, I'll talk about two headsets really struck me. Like on one hand, you had the Pico 4, and on the other hand, you've got the Quest Pro. And I find the Pico is great because, they've been doing a fantastic job for years. And they're the first companies that, bringing a solid alternative to the Quest. And it's a headset that has all of the features. They're coming with their own features. They're coming with a very aggressive price point. And so that's great. And on the flip side of that, you've got the Quest Pro. And what I find is really interesting with this one is that I was reading this really interesting article by a power user that was describing how he did the exercise for like a week to replace his laptop with a Quest Pro. And granted, it's not something for everyone. I'm definitely a geek, and I'm definitely going to try that the minute I have one. But now you're getting to a place where you can have your headset and you can have, browse the internet, use various kind of apps, use a sophisticated browser, and not have a computer. And it's super early. It's working and it's possible. And one of the reasons I'm so excited with the Quest Pro, that it's a window into this world we've been talking about. And it's the first time you have this execution. It's the first time that you see that, oh, wow, it is possible today.
Did anyone here attend CES? Can you raise your hand? Did you see any of the other new hardware developments there? I heard a lot about the Vive XR Elite that was just introduced there. Has anybody tried that? Not yet. Yeah, that was just released, and I also hear that that's very comparable to the Quest Pro as well. It looks very comparable as well, but I think that all of these new devices are kind of leaning towards these mixed reality all-in-one solutions, right?
Yeah. And the Vive XR, so I read everything about it, of course, and I can't wait to try it as well. But it has this one, it's super cool. You've got the glasses mode where basically 80% of the weight of the headset is the battery, and it's the same for every headset. And so they've got this thing where you can remove the battery and just use the headset as a pair of glasses. Then it's like 250 grams instead of 600 or 700 or something. And so back to what I was saying, if you're sitting at a computer and you just plug your headset like on the battery and you have the battery on your desk, all of a sudden you have like this really light, really comfortable headset that you can use for extended periods of time, high definition and all of those fancy features. And again, I cannot wait to try this one.
Yeah, that's really cool, actually. Go ahead, Deb.
I would build on what Terry's saying by adding that the hardware is new, coming into its own and becoming much more capable and functional, but also the ecosystem within which the hardware operates, it's also gaining ground. We have better connectivity. We have 5G. So much more content, so much more operational executional development. So hardware is fitting into an ecosystem that has made great strides, and all of that is building on the digital ecosystem that has been, happening since the internet was first introduced, 25 years ago. So there's parallel with what we're seeing today with metaverse adoption and what we saw 25 years ago with internet adoption. And we're so clearly building on all of that growth and kind of taking the same pathway that we took back then. So I think that as we start 2023 and we're seeing so much change, it's always beneficial to go back and kind of look at where we were with the start of the internet and draw parallels. I think that this is a great time to do that, and there are so many things in the metaverse that we kind of saw back then with AOL and MSN and walled gardens, and how we used the internet in business as well as, for consumer experiences. So one of the things, and I'll throw this back to Terry, is that web is really creating this foundational experience for the metaverse, and it's bringing huge audiences that were unable to access it earlier through the hardware devices.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
but I just go ahead.
No, I was just gonna harp on that a little bit in terms of WebXR, because that is a major development that has been brewing for the past couple of years, and I think is more in the forefront of our minds of professionals in this industry, but also kind of everyone else that is looking into investing in this technology and kind of finding a home for themselves and their brands. And a lot of platforms now are built. Now, social VR platforms and metaverse worlds are built on the web now, like Vasu, actually. I tested it out, and we did something for Metaverse Reversal with Ben Irwin somewhere in here. There he is over there. On the AWE stage live using Vasu on the web. So let's talk about, how that has helped increase awareness, increases accessibility, all those, and ease of access from a content perspective.
So I also wanted to comment on hardware. So the newest thing in hardware at CES this time in January is what they call AR/VR glasses that hook to your phone. So any of the metaverses, like Spatial, for instance, and some of the others that can access their metaverses through the phone, you can now use these AR/VR glasses, but it also doubles as basically that you can now see. Instead of looking at your phone, you can look through these glasses and see it a wide screen. So having that universal function of these glasses, they're very lightweight, not any bigger than most sunglasses, that's going to connect directly to your phone, is going to be the huge new wave you're going to see in VR/AR glasses.
And you're right. I was really impressed at CES. Talking of form factor, there was a lot of glasses, and the form factors are improving tremendously. And the challenge with those is you need to try them to see the image quality. But the form factor are already much better and much closer to actual glasses. And on the flip side, usually it used to be the detriment of the quality. And a lot of the reviews, and again, I haven't tried yet, says that the image quality is really improving, and you're starting to see normal glasses with sharp colors and contrast and wide angles, and again, like significant progress.
The pancake lenses made the big difference in the industry. And so now with the pancake lenses, you can have the same quality that we have in Quest right now, but in an AR version of it that hooks to your phone.
So, Deborah, we talked a lot about hardware, but do you have? We talked a lot about my things. It's what are your things?
Sure. I'm excited to talk about. So I pulled a couple of business numbers. I always like playing the analyst role, and that goes to my point about putting things in context. And so, from an industrial business point of view, past 25 years, the story has really been digital transformation. And that is absolutely taking all of the paper-based systems that businesses worked on for 100 years and digitizing it. And so in 2022 alone, digital transformation market, $730 billion. So that is the foundation upon which we're kind of building out the business metaverse, the enterprise metaverse. And so one of the things that I like to frame things like what we saw coming, what we didn't see coming. One of the things that really took off this year were digital twins. And digital twins, for those of you who don't know, are virtual representations of products, of processes. And the cool thing is that it involves a little bit of forecasting, so you can kind of look into the future. And businesses are adopting digital twins absolutely, and this is where the ecosystem is great because all of the sensors, all of the capture, trillions of sensors that are out there and all of the new cameras are able to collect that data and then create these virtual worlds. Businesses spent $12 billion this year on digital twins, but it's growing year over year at 60%. So be on the lookout for new ways the companies can use digital twins. Anybody want to talk about businesses?
Yeah, definitely raise your hands, guys, if you just want to speak up about any of these topics that we're covering. I want to hear.
This is one of my favorite subjects.
Yeah, more on digital twins. Because it seems like we all know, or most of us know, like the concept of what it is and everything, but I don't think many of us have really seen it in like application in like especially like industry 4.0 and stuff like that. Like what are some industries that have successfully adopted digital twin technology and how have they used it to improve their operations? Give us some like practical applications been done.
So I think that a great example is when you have a factory. So you have a virtual representation of a factory, and then you have a virtual representation of a supply chain. And so these two things can be linked so that you're able to forecast a problem in the supply chain and then moderate what you do in your factory and in your production and in your processes and downstream in your sales so that you're not creating a lot of disruption. It just really brings that data to life in a way that it helps executives make really good decisions and then project, collaborate, and share information. So business is going to be completely transformed by metaverse, industrial metaverse, enterprise metaverse, in a way that we're seeing starting with 25 years ago in digital transformation.
Awesome, Deb. And I think we have a question or comment from Marty. Can we hand Marty the mic?
Okay, yeah. Hopefully everybody can hear me. Marty Mangello, Charlotte, North Carolina in America. I wasn't familiar with the digital twin. I think I might be. Could you clarify it for me?
Sure. A digital twin is literally a virtual representation of anything. It can be a product, it can be a place, it can even be a person. And those assets live in a virtual environment that you can access from the physical world. So if you're a factory manager and you're looking at a dashboard and there's a blinking red light, you could actually put on a headset and go to the machine that is represented by that red light and make adjustments and fix it. A great example is how people are servicing the huge wind turbines off the coast of Scotland. Created digital twins of the wind turbines, but nobody wants to go out in the middle of a storm and climb up 1,000 feet to service a wind turbine. Now they can do that because they have it connected digital twin of the mechanics of the turbine that is reflected in the metaverse.
Something that you might be more familiar with would be both McDonald's and Domino's, especially Domino's Pizza. You can now go into the metaverse and go into one of their stores, an exact copy of their store, and you can order within the metaverse of an exact duplicate of their store. So you can make a pizza and see what it's going to look like and then order it and have it delivered to your house. Starbucks is also doing the same thing.
To Michelle's point, you can order a Domino's pizza in the metaverse, and it's the first time they've really created that physical to digital connection. So, yeah, good on you for coming up with a consumer explanation.
Well, I have another really good example actually from Bell Helicopters. They were doing this years ago with collaborative design. So typically the engineering process for a new product in general, but specifically for Bell Helicopters and their flight aircrafts that they were creating, is that they do a mock-up, 3D mock-up or 2D mock-up, whatever, of the design of the product, and then they would pass it on to the engineers and the pilots or whatever to kind of review it. Then they would actually build that physical product, and then people would, whoever the stakeholders would be, go in to would test out that product physically and kind of point out their commentary and their feedback and the adjustments that their suggestions for that product, and then they would go back to the drawing board, kind of redo that whole cloud design process and go to the build again, and then do that again until they got it right. Whereas now with 3D and VR, they're literally building this product or this aircraft in 3D and VR, and then sitting the engineers and the pilots in the virtual replica, that digital twin of that aircraft. And then in real time, they're giving their feedback. The pilots and the engineers are giving their feedback, and they're making adjustments. Developers are making their adjustments in real time in 3D and VR, so they can literally see the sight lines change or in front of them, or like the gears and stuff like that move closer to them, or whatever their suggestions are. They're seeing that in real time, and then they can actually build the physical product or aircraft and have that be the final design. So it saves a lot of time, it saves a lot of money, and so that's a really great workflow. That
I think that's a great example. But what's really important here, and I want to stress on this, is that I forgot the exact number, and we have the case study on our site, but ballpark, it reduced the production time, it cut the production time something ridiculous, like 5-fold or something like we want to look up the numbers, but
8 months.
Exactly.
5 years to 8 months. It's crazy.
And so, because it's all virtual, and because you don't need to go through those steps that you described, Sophia, of building the physical thing and like bringing, it's so much lighter, it's so much faster, it's so much more efficient. And at the end of it, and we always come back to this in business, it's all about, it's business. So it's about efficiency, and it's about money. It's about doing better with less resources and faster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think we have a. Go ahead, Deb. And while Deb's talking, we have
one of the extensions of digital twins, although it doesn't have to be within a digital twin, is VR training. So those pilots can train on a Bell helicopter simulator in VR, or a factory worker can train on the machines on the factory floor in VR. And VR training is probably the number one use case that we're seeing early on. And in a way, we get back to the context of people are using VR training all the time, and it's become so normalized that we don't even kind of realize we're in the metaverse this round.
Yeah.
Now VR training is throughout soft skills, hard skills, procedural skills, safety training. It is endemic through the entire, work world and becoming so common that it's a use case that everyone's familiar with without even realizing they're, entering the metaverse or
I'll give you another
participating in a virtual world. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll give you another huge use case, and then we'll let Kevin speak. The Army is building something called they have an initiative called the Synthetic Training Environment, which basically they are rebuilding the exact topography and localizations of the entire world. And that is going to be usable across services to train in. And and obviously for obvious reasons, that is helping them train and get used to a specific part of the geographical location that they will be actually servicing or deployed to in virtual. And it's a huge initiative for them. And I'm sure you guys all know by now the DoD is investing millions upon millions of dollars in building out these virtual competencies. So it's something to definitely keep an eye out for.
And we have a
You know what,
question from
Sophia?
Kevin.
I was about to say, let's
Kevin?
take the question from Kevin, and afterwards it would be great to hear you because we haven't talked about your highlights.
Okay.
Good evening, folks. Good evening from France. Kevin here. Just to, I suppose, an example of digital twins in the world I live in industrial and in energy, and to highlight all the points that you just guys made on the stage. If you're building a new factory today and you go to the likes of Siemens, ABB, Schneider Electric, Yokogawa, they'll talk about virtual commissioning. So they design the entire factory in a 3D model, a digital twin, and the financial sign-off, they program all the controllers, everything in software before anybody hole in the ground or builds anything. And now what they're starting to do is when they build out the actual facility and they get all the IoT data and Internet of Things, they get another version, a real-time digital twin. And you've seen a lot of announcements last year from the likes of Siemens, NVIDIA, Bentley Systems, Unity, you name it, taking all of those different platforms and building it into the industrial metaverse. And then you get your VR training and whatever. So this stuff is all happening. Now it's not happening instantly. And to, if I may, to Terry's point, they're not all using VR or AR. A lot of them are using, the desktop. But it's a 3D model, and this stuff is happening right now. So I find it fascinating. So that's just my 2 cents.
I find it fabulous because for a long while, this whole headsets are great, and I'm the biggest geek and fan of headsets. But also, it's kind of crystallized the conversation. I don't have a headset, and so I can't do those 3D things. And so you're losing, 99% of the audience because of this headset thing. And headsets are great, and I'm sure they're going to deploy and grow. But back to what you are saying, Kevin, it's great that people can access this on a computer today. And I think the keyword is really that. It's today. It's not like in 10 years.
And, if I may, with the energy companies and stuff that I work with, if I may, nobody is kind of starting out down, to Deborah's point, the digitalization on steroids to use a VR headset. They're using it to take better sustainability, better efficiency, digital twin, whatever. If they can add on VR and AR as an added benefit, great. But it really is that the efficiency, sustainability, doing everything digitally, that's kind of where I see it being driven. I'm done. Thank you.
But I think the keyword, and it's kind of interesting because sometimes when people ask about the metaverse, the real common denominator in all of this is not the hardware and the headset. The real common denominator is the interactive 3D technology. It's really new, and it's been difficult to explain to people, and it's interesting. What's been really new is that we've moved from a 2D flat internet, and all of those applications we are discussing, the one and only thing they have in common is that they're 3D interactive applications that you can use through any device. That's this switch. That's really the important one. Because you can't remove the 3D and still have the application.
Yeah, I think that's a really important call out, actually. And I think more and more people are realizing that, right? It's like first it was just talk about XR, VR, AR headsets, getting in a headset to be able to experience this content. And now we're like, okay, regardless of the adoption of headsets, how do we increase adoption and accessibility of these 3D worlds or of just 3D content and make it useful for people? And I think in a lot of ways, and we talked about this separately, Terry and Deb, is that people over the years have unknowingly been using this technology. For example, social media facial filters for years, QR codes and image recognition to view restaurant menus. I mean, QR codes have been around for like, what, 15, 20 years, and only in the past few years have we really been putting it into practice. And then like Matterport, for example, is 3D walkthroughs of properties. Now there's a click of the button and you can switch it to VR mode, but this is still 3D interactive examples of
On your
how
PC, and
people
it's
are using
fine.
this technology. And it's totally fine. Yeah.
So
I love
back to what I
that
was
example.
saying. We talked a lot, Sophia, and time is really going quick. And before we wrap up, I would love to hear your highlights of the year.
Well, what I think, I mean, obviously, I'm very big into WebXR with my friend Ben Irwin and his wife Helen, who's somewhere in the room as well, and then many others in our group here, Julie Smithson and others. And we're talking about the rise of metaverse platforms, and specifically platforms that are using web. And I talked about this earlier, but I think it's really important to call out that this is indicative of the rise of interest and engagement with the metaverse. And not only that, but from a variety of different types of users and demographics and different types of entities from an enterprise standpoint. So I'd love to like talk about maybe some of these platforms and how they're being utilized from a brand and consumer perspective. But I know Deb has kept her eye very close on the fashion industry in particular, because I think that was something that was kind of unpredicted for us, and how high-end fashion brands in particular, right, have been adopting this technology over the past year or so.
And fast. Like usually
Yeah.
fashion is not exactly the most, like to me what was really impressive was all of a sudden, like 2 months afterwards, it's everyone is there, and Gucci and Nike and and Balenciaga and everyone.
So obviously I was the industrial enterprise person, and the whole explosion of the fashion industry into the metaverse really came as a surprise to me. So I looked into it a little bit more. And then when you think about it, really isn't that surprising. It's really logical, because what is fashion if not expression and creativity and design and influence? And how these brands, where can they have this? Obviously in real life to a limited degree, but they can have that in the metaverse, on steroids. Everyone can choose elegant fashion for their avatar, self-expression, NFTs. The fashion industry has really adopted NFTs. Vogue now has an NFT tracker. I looked up the money because that's what I do. And last year, the fashion industry in the metaverse was 2.2 billion, going to 6.7 billion by 2026. Incredible growth. And so this year, what Terry mentioned, Gucci and Balenciaga and Burberry and all these European brands have been very, very, very active. This year, the Council on Fashion Designers of America, they're doing a 60-year perspective in the metaverse. And the American fashion designers have climbed right on the bandwagon, and they are getting as active in the metaverse as the Europeans. One call out I want to make in our presentation, Verse Networking, is going to be focused on fashion. So we know you come every month, but be sure and come in March, because we're going to really dive into the industry with some experts and focus on how fashion in the metaverse and digital identity and expression and NFTs, how that's going to kind of take off in the years to come.
Yeah, and not all of these platforms are created equally, right? Like I feel like there are specific focus areas for what they're trying to achieve and who they're trying to attract. So, I mean, I know one of the questions that we get a lot at VRM is, I want to be in the metaverse. How do I do that? So, like, where do we plug into? Like, how do we define what the proper course of action is in terms of, like, are they building a world on their own? Should it be through the web? What social platform should they plug into if they want to plug into an already established audience and user base? Because Roblox is for one particular user base, Facial is for another, Decentraland is for another. Like, how do we kind of navigate that?
Well, so Metaverse Fashion Week was very successful last year in Decentraland, and they're, of course, taking this up again. So Decentraland in March is going to host Metaverse Fashion Week with multiple designers. And I think that something that we need to look at in terms of fashion is Chinese, Korean, and the other Asian markets, because they are so much, they're so early adopters in high fashion looks. And we're seeing quite a bit of interest from those countries. So getting us a little bit out of our US, European-centric vision here, there are other countries in the world are very, very fashion forward. Obviously, Dubai and other of the Middle East countries are also super invested in the metaverse and stepping up. So
Yeah.
fashion kind of is the universal language. And they've led on NFTs, on blockchain, on crypto, and in a way they've kind of made it successful. So I'm looking forward to, learning more, talking to our experts, and kind of, showcasing that vision.
All right.
Okay.
Cool.
We have another question. I know we have a few minutes left, Terry.
Yes.
Do you mind if we have Callahan?
Let's yeah, sure, please.
Here. Okay. Awesome.
Hi there.
Hi.
I was interested in the comment that you had made about there are so many different platforms and they tend to be focused on one thing or another, depending on the audience, maybe the region, maybe the purpose for what the client is interested in, like fashion or digital twins. Where do you see AltspaceVR, where we are right now? Because I do a lot of sort of educational training things in here, gamifying knowledge. What do you see Altspace's use?
So Altspace is probably the oldest platform. At least it's one of the oldest VR
Second
startups.
Life.
Well, Second Life was just in a league on its own because it was like
Yes.
2002 or 3 or 4.
Yes.
I kind of not consider them because technologically they're so different and before.
Yeah.
Like, if you will, Altspace is of the first one of the new wave, like of the rebirth of VR around 2016. And they've been great, and then there are difficulties, and then they've been acquired by Microsoft. That's really important for what's coming. And they've been positioned as the place for events. And they are great for events, and that's why we have our events on Altspace. Technically speaking, they're one of the platforms with the most tools to support a lot of things, like large crowds and everything. And they do that better than everyone else. And so they've got all kinds of events, and they're the place for events. Now, back to your question. Thing with Altspace, and you may have heard of Microsoft Mesh.
Yep. I have.
Yeah. And that's coming, and that's so for all of you, just like in 1 second, Microsoft Mesh is the integration of, this metaverse and 3D worlds into the Microsoft ecosystem. And that's going to be connected with Microsoft Teams and all of their tools. And right now, Altspace is a little bit of crossroads because they're parents, like they're the big brother that's been here before. And Mesh is the new sibling. And there's going to be this switch. So it's a long intro to say that Altspace is in this weird position where it's been here forever. And it's become less and less of the focus of Microsoft because Mesh is coming up. So you really
Well-
want to have a look at Mesh. Yeah.
So think,
Yeah.
think of mesh.
Me-
Think of mesh as being AltspaceVR 2.0.
Right.
It will probably be pay.
Yep.
Space 1.0 will continue as we know it, primarily kind of a sandbox. It'll be a place where you can come and still create your avatars, still have events that are free. Where 2.0 will be an expansion of AltSpace 1.0, but maybe a little bit of pay on top of it. But it'll have the benefits of having events that are much larger or having more intensive things that you can do within teams that'll be combined within it and give you that virtual reality and be connected more to your PC into a headset. So it's going to be an
Right.
ASVR, more kind of PCVR type of
Oh, so you're not thinking that they're going to. So you're saying that the users are going to require Teams to start with to get in. And
Well,
the
the
second thing is,
so we're not,
no,
we're
no,
not
mesh,
sure.
mesh will be part of Teams. Mesh
Right.
will include Team within it. So
Right,
it's
but
gonna
you're
be
also
a
saying-
whole upgrade.
so you're also saying it's going to, what you're thinking is in order to utilize that in Teams, it won't support 2D. It won't support the PC people will be focused
so
on.
that's the
No,
thing.
it
No,
will.
no, that's the
No,
thing.
it's the opposite.
Excellent.
It will
Teams,
support
Teams,
it.
and they're doing that
Team
very
will
well. What
support
they're
it,
doing.
but it will. It's like taking Team and put AltSpace and combining them together in your PC.
Good.
And,
Good.
and I think
And-
there's something even more important to say is that we keep saying that VR is one mode of communications that's not designed
Yeah.
to erase everything before it. What they're
Mhm.
going to do very intelligently in Teams, that within Teams, you're going to have the whole array of communication. So you want to
Right.
have the basic text message. You want to text someone, you flip trick, you just write your 2-line message like a text message. Or you want to
Yeah.
have an audio call and then you call people with audio. Or you want
Right.
to have a video call and you do the video call. Or you
Right,
wanna
which
have
is
a
normal
share
right
screen
now.
And you do a share screen. And then you
That-
add the VR button. And if you want to go further, well, now in the same environment, you can click and you can have the VR as well. And that's really
Right.
important because then as a user, maybe I'm going to text you, maybe I'm going to video call you, maybe we're going to do this in VR. It's one click.
Well, I just to mention just now, I mean, we're all here, so obviously we're kind of fans of this environment. But when I believe it was Deborah was speaking and you wanted to interject, you could. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We could both show that we want to talk about it. I just really adore this space. And I've been exploring other platforms in case this version goes away, because it's not necessarily monetized. If it just goes pure mesh and we lose this consumer version. And so I have been kind of exploring all of these. Whereas I love the tools here. The tools here work for me. Education works for me. But what's interesting is, if Deborah is correct, that this is not going away necessarily, but the skills that we develop here can be directly used in mesh later. It's sort of a one-to-one.
Correct.
Okay,
Absolutely
because-
correct. Correct.
Excellent.
Everything you build in here, everything skills that you've used, that you've learned, every tool that you've used will be able to be used in mesh. And then
Perfect.
more again on an enterprise basis. And this is not going away, contrary to people's belief. It's just not going to support and it's not going to be expandable. And
Right.
so
I
if you
think that's
want
gonna
something
open up a
more
lot of
expandable, you'll go to
opportunities.
mesh.
That's
Yeah.
It's
excellent.
kind of like, if you take Microsoft, they have like the same thing with two products that are super popular. And you have Skype. Skype has been
Yeah.
around forever, and Skype has been acquired by Microsoft, like, I don't know,
Yep.
10 years ago, or I'm not sure.
Yep.
And you
Yep.
have also Teams, and Skype exists, and Teams exist, and
Is
both
is
exist
in Teams, and Link is in Teams, and Link got bought, and then they got Skype and sort of dropped most of Link, and then there's Groove and all the others. But I appreciate that, because it's smart to take AltSpace and use it as a background for mesh, because this gives AltSpace millions more customers than it would have had otherwise, because people have to find AltSpace, and AltSpace isn't marketed. However, my original question, and thank you so much, guys, for talking to me about this, was kind of I know that there are certain platforms that are perfect for fashion and perfect for large events and supporting many, many users and focus for this and focus for that. So going back to my original question, what do you guys think AltSpace, other than Mesh, might have been best used for?
I beg to differ a little bit. I
Okay.
really don't think there's a perfect platform right now. Like, one of the things that people keep forgetting is that it's very early days, and we keep talking to the people who are building those platforms. And when you talk to Glue, and when you talk to Spatial, and when you talk to Microsoft for AltSpace, they will all tell you the same thing. It's like, guys, we have a 3-year roadmap of all of those features that people want. And yes, we know you want this, and we know you want big events with like 1,000 people, and you want this. All of this is on the roadmap. And for instance, that feature you're just talking about, it's coming up in 2024 because that's as fast as we can build it.
So nothing's right now, but they're
it's not
going.
Nothing's right. It's nothing's perfect.
Perfect. Yes, I'm sorry. Nothing's perfect. Gotcha.
And if you want more information, please come talk to me afterwards. If you have an event or whatever you would like to do, and I can give you an idea of what would be the preferable platform for whatever kind of thing that you're trying to do.
So many things, but thank you.
And you know what? I'll just, because we need to pay attention to time, and I'll say several things. We always really appreciate being here in person, and you're right, Callahan. It's not the same as a big Zoom call with people on video. You feel that you're in the room, and it makes all the difference in the world. Really appreciate to have all of you, and we really appreciate the format. And I'll conclude on one thing that we keep saying, and that's exactly what you were going to say, is that the internet has not been turned on in one day. Like the internet of 2023, it's not like someone on January 1st flipped the switch and poof, the internet of 23, the perfect internet we know, is ready. It's been a long progression, and video didn't exist in all of the 90s, and video started in 2005, and social media in 2010, and mobile was kickstarted by the iPhone. The iPhone introduction anniversary was exactly 16 years ago yesterday. It's funny. And so it's the same thing with the metaverse. When I say it's not perfect, we kind of tend to forget and take it for granted for the internet. But for the metaverse, it's the same thing. And we are transitioning towards more feature-rich experiences and having more of those features. And it keeps getting better. But we all need to be patient, unfortunately. Fortunately, we're out of time. So what I suggest we do is super happy to continue the conversation on LinkedIn. We always post about those events. So if you have more comments or questions that we didn't attend to today, feel free to post your question on our group, Reality Innovators Network, and we'll be happy to continue the conversation there. And now it's time for the breakouts, as we do. So you've got the little booth on the side. Feel free to move to the booth in just 1 minute. And to continue, the question today, obviously, is please share your XR Metaverse highlight of 2022 and what was so great about it for you. And finally, it's the end of the first hour. We're a little bit over the hour, and it's the beginning of after hours. So for all of you who are watching us online, this is goodbye. Thank you for making the time to join us today, and see you next time. And if you're in the space with us, well, the place is yours, and we're open for the next hours. So let's move on to the breakouts.
Yeah, I want to make one more plug. If you're interested in learning more about WebXR, visit thepolys.com. We've been doing award shows. So this is going to be our 3rd year doing awards and around the creators of WebXR. And specifically, Ben told me to call out prehistoricdomain.com if you want to check out Jurassic Park in WebXR. Prehistoricdomain.com. Okay, that's it.
Noted, we'll do. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Let's move to the breakouts.